November 13th meeting of the Miami-Dade City Council. Mr. Clerk, call the roll.
Councilwoman Odom.
Here.
Councilwoman Wilson. Councilman Iguodaro.
Here.
Councilman Leon.
Here.
Councilman Williams.
Here.
Vice Mayor Harris.
I'm here.
Mayor Gilbert.
I'm here.
You have quorum.
Please rise for the invocation and pledge of allegiance.
Mayor, do you want to do a motion to excuse Councilwoman?
I'll take that right after the invocation and pledge of allegiance. Heavenly Father, Lord and Savior, thank you for this day. We pray that you bless us and keep us. Heavenly Father, cover us with your grace and your guidance and your wisdom and your mercy. I pray for all those on the way here. Traveling mercies, I pray for us as we leave. Traveling mercies back to our families. In Jesus' name we do pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I move that we excuse the absence of Councilwoman Wilson.
Second.
So moved and second, all those in favor of excusing the absence, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, show absence excused. All right, where are we? Minutes?
Yes, minutes.
Okay, I need a motion on the minutes.
Motion. Second.
It's been moved and second, we approve the minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, show the minutes approved. We are now on the agenda. Order of business.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
All right, we have a couple add-on items for tonight. Add-on item number 1 is sponsored by Councilman Iguodaro, and that's an allocation from his public affairs account to Mount Zion Church. And we're asking that that be added to the consent agenda as item, 12.4. No, 11.14.
Is that the 19146?
Yes, 19146. All right. And then we have add-on items 2 through 7. I'll defer to the city attorney. These are regarding the special lighting districts. Okay.
As the Mayor Council knows, you already authorized us to transfer certain lighting districts and special districts from the county to the city. You previously did resolutions. These are the final ones. However, for 4 of these districts, we do not need to take it to the voters. The county amended their ordinances to allow them to just go ahead and transfer them to us because they only have a few electors in them. What they're requiring is that we ratify their action in doing that, and so that's what these are. The last one, which is the Dolphin District, that one is, again, we're ratifying their latest action, which happened in October, and that one will go before the voters in December.
Okay. If there's no objection, I would add these to the consent agenda. Show the matter.
That's all that I have for
I need a
add-on.
motion on the agenda as amended.
Motion. Second.
It's been moved and second that we approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, show it approved. We're now on special presentations. You? Yes. This is the Miami-Dade County 2020 Census Task Force presentation by Commissioner Esteban Bovo. Steve Bovo.
Good evening, Mayor and councilmen and women. I apologize that Commissioner Bovo was not able to make it, but I am here on his behalf and on behalf of the county. As you all know, the census is very important. My name is Alina Garcia, and I have some information here for you. I don't know if to give it to you now or give it to somebody else, and they'll. How do you proceed?
Can give it to him right here.
Okay.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, that's it. Yes. So, as we all know, the census is very important. Every 10 years, we all need to get counted. And we're trying to visit all the cities and speak to you about the census and how important it is, because those are the federal dollars that will be coming for infrastructure, for hospitals, schools, affordable housing, et cetera, et cetera. And it's just a very important topic of conversation. The last time we had the census, Miami-Dade County was counted up to 82%, and we're trying to see if we can do better. So we're trying to get all of you to help us so that we can all get counted and we can get all those federal dollars. And so who needs to get counted? Everybody needs to get counted. If you're a human being, we need you to be counted. It doesn't matter if you're young or old. Your status, your migration status doesn't count. We need to have everyone counted so that the federal dollars can be sent to us. On the mid-March, we will be receiving an invitation to fill out the census. It's not going to be as it was previously done. Previously, the census would send you like this big paper that everybody would fill out and send it in. Now that's not the way that it's happening. Mid-March, they will send an invitation to fill out the census, and you can go into the website and fill it out, or you can call and give your information via the telephone, or you can call and request one of those census forms that they used to send before. All of the information that is received from the census will be used for statistics, but the personal information will be guarded for 72 years. Nobody will have access to that. No agencies, no one. So I wish the commissioner would be here because he explains it so much better, but his father is ill and he asked me to step in. We didn't want to cancel at the last minute. So do you have any questions that maybe I can?
No, I don't, but I would like you to speak with Petula Burks, who's our Director of Civic Engagement, or James Pope, whichever of them are here, to talk about our complete count, the census activation that we're trying to do. What you're doing is very important. Definitely give our best to Commissioner Bovo.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. James. All right. We're now on public comment. All right, public comment. I didn't do this initially. Let me just say, everyone, who all has a cell phone in here? Everybody has a cell phone? If you have a cell phone, raise your hand. All right, if you all could just check your cell phones and place them on vibrate now. I know you all placed them on vibrate before you came in. Everyone thinks they did, but often you don't do that and it rings. You turned yours off? I see you. All right. Well, that's great. So we're going, when I call your name, come up and give your name and your address. And you have 2 minutes. Just for people who might be new to council, if you have something that you agree with and you really, really think they said something really good, you just do like this and you smile. If you have something that someone, says and you disagree with, you just do like this and you frown. And then we know. All right? Okay. The first person is Michael Robinson. Mr. Robinson, you have 2 minutes.
Good evening, everybody. What I want to know is basically what is the acceptable standard for swale maintenance? Because many people, most of the people.
Give your name and address for the record.
I'm sorry. My name is Michael Robinson, 2420 Northwest 181 Terrace, Miami, Florida 33056. I just wanted to know what I need a tangible, not an academic definition, but the tangible. I need to know what the acceptable standard is for the swale in front of your house. Like I was saying before, we woke up one morning and everyone got a citation for their swales. Some people got, it was just, I need to know what the acceptable standard is. I moved back home to take care of my mom. She has a nurse's aide. My sister stops by every day. We use it every day. We maintain it, and there are going to be brown spots. There are going to be crunchy spots. Even maintaining your yard, it's winter. Everyone's yard, if you go down 24th Avenue, 181st Street, everyone's yard is crunchy, even the people who have it done professionally. It's like we're kind of terrified to not have a pristine yard. It's winter, and it's a middle-class neighborhood. I understand you're trying to beautify the city, but I would like a tangible definition of what the level of acceptability is for your swale.
Okay, thank you. Joan and someone will talk to you in the back, and we definitely want you not to be terrified of not maintaining your yard. So Joan Bispot from Code will talk to you in the back. All right?
Okay, I've dealt with Code.
Well, Well, and listen, if it doesn't come tangible enough, talk to who's from my office. Who's here from my office? Nisha, if you could talk to him afterwards, and if he needs further clarification, you can set something up for him to come by the office. All right. LaShawn, I might be mispronouncing this. I think it's LaShawn Drake. Okay.
Good evening. My name is LaShawn Drake. My address is 19157 Northwest 33rd Place. November 7th, I walked the neighborhood for my therapy. I'm a part of Miami-Dade Corrections, and a gentleman tried to grab me.
Hold on, Pastor, please. Don't do that. Go ahead. Mr. Drake.
Okay. A gentleman tried to grab me with his private part out. I kind of like beat him up with the umbrella, but I called the police, and we called, once I called 911, it went to Miami-Dade Police Dispatch. Miami-Dade had to call Miami Gardens twice before someone answered the phone. The first time it went to check, press 1. If you need to speak to his administration, press 2. He hung up and called back. It did the same thing. On the third occasion, he was able to get a Miami Gardens dispatcher for a police to come out. That needs to be addressed because
I'm not sure that's how that's supposed to work, so the chief is going to definitely talk to you in the back about that.
And I want to say also, I kind of had lost faith with Miami Gardens Police Department, but I must commend Officer Fabian, Diaz, and the Nestros. They did catch the guy yesterday, so he is incarcerated. And this guy roams the area by the school, by Brentwood. Tell your police officers to stop hiding behind the CVS's, side to side, talking. We need them patrolling over there on 33rd and 191st. We don't have the roundabout, but we need for y'all local enforcement to be over there to protect the citizens. Thank you.
The chief will talk to you in the back. Thank you. Mary Reeves.
Good evening. My name is Mary Reeves. I reside at 1521 Northwest 168 Terrace. To everything there's a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven. I am against the naming of any public building, etc., after a living person, no disrespect. I feel this is not the season for the current nominees. Secondly, I would like to see more participation from the local 6 schools regarding the Formula One, because it is an environmental issue. I also need an update on the educational compact. This is not my first time here inquiring about it. And in closing, I ask if you would take a few minutes to listen to Dre Marshall, a hip-hop gospel artist, song, Call 'Em Out. It's a very inspirational song, and I thank you for your time. Good night.
Thank you. Mary Nelson Hayden. And the next person is Harold G. Green.
My name is Mary Nelson Hayden. I reside at 631 Northwest 189 Terrace, Miami Gardens, Florida, 33169. I can agree with this lady. My son was going to the store. He was 15-year-old on March 30th when a gunman hold him up right behind President's Supermarket. He's very traumatized, and I called and report it, but there's nothing get done as yet. So I would like to see, more police officer get involved in Miami Gardens. And secondly, I want to know, why do we have to fix the walkway and on our property and to fix the, what is it? The sidewalk. Is it our, is it for us to do it, or is for the city?
Oh, okay. It's just questions about code?
As well as the police department.
Okay. The chief looks like she's dying to have that conversation. I know Joan is. So the chief and Joan will speak with you in the back. Errol?
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Honorable Vice Mayor, members of the Commission. I'm here to speak about...
Give me your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Harold G. Green, address 17710 Northwest 18th Avenue, 33056. Now, I'm here to speak about the possibility of the Commission rezoning Grace United Community Church from a residential to a commercial business. We are a community church servicing the community, and we have built a new facility that we call a banquet hall. But because of the zoning issues, we are not able to, the banquet hall is not able to function as we built it to function. I find it a bit concerning that we have commercial business right in front of our property. To the east of our property, we have commercial businesses, and right there, it seems that if we have an issue to rezone our property to commercial. The business that we are offering is one of a kind in the community. I know members of the Commission might have visited our facilities, and we will offer top-class service to our community, because there's nothing like this in our community. And
Mr. Green, that beep was your 2 minutes, and it's up. So what I'm going to do is also, I see a number of cards here, and this is an item that's on for public hearing. So we're going to actually adopt your comments, and we're going to hear the rest of everyone who wants to speak on 13.1 after we call the item. So everybody will have a chance to speak on this item, but it'll be after we call the item. So this is for public comment, everything that's not on the land use agenda. So, but we'll adopt your comments for 13.1 once it's been entered. All right?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So we only have 2 more cards that aren't for 13.1. Flora Johnson. And the next person is Pastor Cromedy.
Good evening. Flora Johnson, 1910 Northwest 163rd Street Road, Miami Gardens, Florida, 33054. This is a presentation to 3 of the council people that is given to them by Grandparents Raising Grandchildren Association. And I would like to call their names, please. Councilwoman Lily Odom. Vice Mayor Rodney Harris. Councilman Reggie Leon. And while they're coming down and I'm here, you missed a treat who did not attend the veteran luncheon. When I tell you it was exciting and the food was delicious. So you missed it, and I'm proud of the city, and we had the veterans who were very, very grateful. So again, from the Miami Gardens Veteran Advisory Board, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Hey, Ms. Johnson? We don't do that in public comment. Yeah, we don't do that in public comment. Hey, we don't yell out, where's the photographer either. Yeah, no, we don't do that. We don't do that. Oh, Lord.
Good evening. My name is Pastor Fred Cromartie from True Love Praise and Worship Church, 4179 Northwest 167th Street. I do want to say each time that I come by here that I express that this is one of the greatest cities that I've ever been a part of, and I want to thank you guys for doing such an awesome job here at Miami Gardens. I have a little minor situation where in my church, right in that area, there are two young men that sleep in that area because they're homeless, right? And I understand that because I do volunteer at the Chapman Partnership for the Homeless for the last 16 years. Twice a week I go there. But it's becoming a nuisance because they are doing some human extrication of feces around the building, which is very, very inappropriate. I have come down to the code enforcement, to the information window, and asking what could be done. I took a day off and I went to the police department and asked them what could be done. They said that I need to call the police to come out, and I did that. And first time it took a couple of hours before they showed up, and the gentleman left by the time they came. Second time, the same thing happened, but what they told me was is that there was really nothing that they could do unless they, observed them in the act. And I told them one of them had a stay away order because it was told to me by one of the business people that's on the side of me. And I just didn't know where to go from there. So I said, let me come to the commission meeting and see if there's any advice that could be given to me that could be helpful, because I want to follow proper protocol.
I'm not sure. I think the chief and the police legal advisor will probably have to get into that. Nicole and chief, they probably need to get into that. I don't know that we have a unilateral right to actually move people, but I do know that it's against the law to do that in public.
Yes.
I think that, so.
At least 4 times it was done on 4 different occasions.
It would have to be something that they go through with you. Thank you.
Okay.
Public comment is now closed.
All right, we're on to item 8. Ordinance is on for first reading. Item 8.1, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Miami Gardens, Florida, amending Chapter 6, Article 5, Section 6-195 of the Code of Regulations events during the 2020 National Football League Super Bowl, providing for adoption representation, repealing all ordinances in conflict, providing a severability clause, providing for inclusion of code, providing for an effective date, and this is sponsored by the city manager.
All right, public hearing on this, Mr. Manager? You want to say something?
No, not right now.
Public hearing on this item, it's public hearing, right?
No.
No? Oh, okay, Mr. Manager, go ahead.
I'm going to have Ms. Nelson, Assistant City Manager, do a briefing on this, Mayor, council members.
Good evening, Council. Vernita Nelson, Assistant City Manager. As it relates to this particular ordinance, which is on for first reading, earlier in the year, the Council passed a clean zone ordinance where it altered our regular zoning ordinance to taking consideration activities that would happen during the Super Bowl timeframe here in 2020. What wasn't considered in that was any activities that we, the city, may want to do. So it excluded us from doing activities on our city property or even here at City Hall. So took it up with the city manager and the city attorney, and you have before you some language for 3 sections of all the sections that were affected, but 3 sections that allow us to provide activities and sales of things for during that time frame on our city property. So it's giving us permission to do things on behalf of our residents during that time zone.
Thank you. I move the item.
Second.
Okay. Questions, comments from the dais? Call the roll.
Councilwoman Odom?
Yes.
Councilman Iguodaro?
Yes.
Councilman Leon?
Yes.
Councilman Williams?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Harris?
I vote yes.
Mayor Gilbert?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. Item 8.2, in order to the City Council of the City of Miami-Dade, Florida, amending Chapter 18, Parks and Recreation, Division 8, undesirable acts and behavior of the City of Miami-Dade's Code of Ordinances by establishing a prohibition on nicotine vaporizers, e-cigarettes, throughout the city parks, providing for adoption and representation, repealing all ordinances in conflict, providing a severability clause, providing for an effective date, and this is sponsored by Councilman David Williams, Jr.
Mr. Williams.
Okay, well, this is sort of a no-brainer, straightforward ordinance with all that is going on around vaporizing and e-cigarettes and adding vitamin E and stuff. I thought it would be appropriate that we had some kind of ordinance in place that prohibited that on our parks. I do have a question, though, Mr. Mayor, to the attorney. Could I add something to this?
You can by amendment, would have to be an amendment.
Okay, I have to bring it, okay.
You have to-
Okay, let me, before we, so, let me just move the item.
Okay.
Move the item.
I move it.
All right, I'll second the item. So now it's for questions and comments. Now, you want to make an amendment to the item?
Right.
Yes. What's your amendment?
And my amendment is if we bump this up to city properties also.
City property. So all, not city parks, but all city properties?
Right.
Okay, well, yeah, it's your amendment, it's your
Right.
item, so you can amend it.
I have to actually draft an amendment like that, because I have to go in and find out which code section to put it in. So, because what I did was, Mayor, I went in and a section of the code dealing with Parks and Rec, that's what it's governing. So why don't you, I would have to bring it back, because I'd have to find out where to put it and codify, it has to be codified.
Okay.
So, I could bring it back for second reading, but then we're gonna have to do a third reading on this, because that is a substantial change to make it throughout citywide. But we could do it, I just have to be able to draft it.
Okay. Well, would it be easier if I just defer it to the next
No,
meeting?
approve this
Oh,
item. Go ahead and approve
Okay.
this item. I can always bring another item, amending this item, if I need to.
Okay.
Question.
I am,
Hold on.
my question is, in reading the item itself, it does not state, unless I missed it, it doesn't state how we are going to police this particular action. Can someone answer that for me?
How we're gonna police it?
Yes.
It's code enforcement,
Code enforcement?
or police, yes.
So, but what I'm saying is, how will people know that we have this particular ordinance
Oh, I
in
see what you're
place?
saying.
That's
As far
what
as
I'm
signage
saying.
and all that?
Yes,
Okay, that's the question
are we
for me.
going to be doing signage? And if so, what's the cost? Because I didn't see that in this particular item.
Mayor? Yes. Mayor. Mayor and council members, we will be developing a program that will address signage and costs. Normally, we wouldn't put that in the ordinance that would follow
Okay.
after the ordinance passes. So we will be proposing that. As far as enforcement, there will be a combination not only from our code enforcement, policing, our police department, and probably to some extent during certain events with our Parks and Recreation Department.
I like, Mr. Council, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I like the spirit of the item,
Mr. Williams. My question, I think, is almost, it dovetails the question Lily's asking, Councilwoman Odom is asking in terms of enforcement. I don't want to, intention is right. You know, like we were talking before, we don't want to have unintended consequences. In terms of enforcement, you know, we've seen what the disparity in enforcement of marijuana laws have done to the black community across the country. All right. I'm not saying it's going to happen in our community, but we have to be careful. I know we have serious vaping problems amongst our youth, but we don't want to make this another prison pipeline. What is going to be the penalty? How do we enforce it to make sure people, yeah, they need to know that we don't tolerate this in our parks, our buildings, especially our youth, so they will not begin to arrest them willy-nilly. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Mr. Williams, you want or the attorney or someone?
I mean, is that a question you want me to know?
I mean, if you want to, Mr. Mayor, if you want to elaborate on it, but it's just something to think about. I think it needs to be fine-tuned and thought through. I think it's a good idea, but just make sure that we don't do harm, unintended harm to our kids.
Well, I understand your position. I mean, just like other ordinances, I mean, what do they do? I mean, how do we enforce them?
Yeah, we well, I think if it's we don't create necessarily criminal laws. It'd be a violation of our code. It would be enforced by our police department. But right now, I'm guessing that this would be something that we wouldn't necessarily arrest for.
Exactly.
I don't think we'd necessarily arrest for it because we don't even really. I think the council passed a position not to arrest for possession of marijuana. So I don't know that we would be arresting for this anyway. But that's something that we can work through with staff between now and second reading.
I appreciate that, Mr. Mayor, and I know we're not going down that road. If you've been watching the news recently, a school police officer arrested a 6-year-old in class. That's not school policy. But sometimes when you open a door, there's going to be abuses, and we got to make sure that it's foolproof. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Call the roll.
Councilwoman Wilson? I'm sorry. Councilman Iguodaro?
Yes.
Councilman Leon?
Yes.
Councilman Williams?
Yes.
Councilwoman Odom?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Harris?
Yes.
Mayor Gilbert?
I vote yes.
The item passes 6-0. Item 8.3, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Miami Gardens, Florida, amending Chapter 2 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Miami Gardens entitled Administrative Article 9, Purchasing by creating Section 2-766 entitled Fair Change Requirement for City Contractors and amending Article 4, Official Officers, Employees, and Departments by creating Division 3 to be entitled the Fair Change Ordinance to provide regulations regarding the consideration by the city and by the contractors of the criminal history of applicants for employment and to provide limiting provisions and providing for repeal, severability, codification, and an effective date, sponsored by Mayor Oliver Gilbert.
Council, this is an item that bans the box. You know, we talk a lot about, and the voters of Florida approved restoration of rights for felons, but if you give somebody a right and you really won't give them a job, what did you really give them? This bans the box in Miami Gardens, but it goes a step further. It says that people who we're going to do business with, if we're going to pay you money, we want you to ban the box too. So that if someone's paid their debt to society, they can then re-enter society in a meaningful way. With that, I'll move the item.
Second.
Just a comment. I just want to support the idea. I think is the right thing to do, and it's a long time coming. Thank you.
Councilman Iguodaro.
Yes.
Councilman Leon.
Yes.
Councilman Williams.
Yes.
Councilwoman Odom.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Harris.
Yes.
Mayor Gilbert.
I vote yes.
The item passes 6-0. Item 8.4, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Miami Gardens relating to elections, calling the 2020 general election and special election for mayor and council seats 1, 3, 5, and proposed chapter amendments providing for a runoff election if necessary, providing for qualification of candidates, providing for a close of election boards, providing the official ballot form, providing the notification, providing for adoption of representation, repealing all ordinance in conflict, providing a severability clause, providing an effective date. This item is sponsored by the city clerk.
I'm going to move the item, but also I'm just going to read the portion over it. Calling the 2020 general election and special election for mayor and for council seats 1, 3, and 5. You left out mayor.
I apologize.
Yeah. So I'll move the item. Seconded. Questions or comments? This is just our ordinance that the clerk brings to call the elections for next year. All right. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Councilman Leon.
Yes.
Councilman Williams.
Yes.
Councilman Iguodaro. Councilwoman Odom.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Harris.
Yes.
Mayor Gilbert.
I vote yes.
The item passes 6-0. Ordinance 8.5.
The item passes 5-0. We'll
I
record a
apologize.
vote for Mr. Iguodaro when he comes by.
Unless he gave his vote before he left.
He can't do that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, go ahead.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Miami Gardens, Florida, amending Division 3 of Chapter 28, the Code of Ordinances entitled Unsafe Structures, providing for the adoption of representation, repealing all ordinance in conflict, providing a severability clause, providing for an effective date. This item is sponsored by the City Attorney.
Mayor
Madam
and
Attorney.
Mayor and Council, this is a revamp of our unsafe structures ordinance. Previously, we were under the jurisdiction of the county when it came to unsafe structures. When they finally allowed cities to do it, we did it. And what we did was follow their code at the time. Well, now we have some history with it, and we worked with the building official, Ozzie, and came up with a more streamlined process and an easier process for everyone to follow. So that is what is before you to approve.
I move the item.
Second.
All right. A question comes from Dance. Call the roll.
Councilman Williams.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hold. Councilwoman?
The one thing I did not see in this is, with the unsafe structure, is there a term on it? Like, is there a certain time to determine whether that property is unsafe?
No, it's either, a property is either unsafe or it's not, but if there is a time period for
What's the
yes,
time frame
the building
for that?
official has certain discretion depending upon what it is for people to bring it into compliance.
Because when I'm thinking about that hospital there,
Well,
you know,
I don't know that that's necessarily an unsafe structure in accordance with what the law requires, but
I think we got an order against that.
for
demolition
code
a while back,
enforcement.
yeah.
Yeah, we have code enforcement liens against it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. You have to ask Ozzie as it relates to
All
specific
right.
properties.
yeah.
I don't know.
Thank you.
All right. Call the roll.
Councilman Williams.
Yes.
Councilman Iguodaro.
Yes.
Councilwoman Odom.
Yes.
Councilman Leon.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Harris.
Yes.
Mayor Gilbert.
Yes.
The item passes 6-0.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
can I record my vote, yes vote on the previous item?
Yes. Thank you.
Ordinance 9.1. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Miami Gardens amending Chapter 34 Zoning and Land Development, Section 34-45.2, Site Plan Approval of the Code of Ordinances by establishing a requirement for new commercial developments or redevelopments and new multifamily developments or redevelopments to participate in the City of Miami Gardens Safe Camp program, granting participants a 10% reduction in impact fees, providing for the adoption of representation, repealing all ordinances and conflicts, providing for a severability clause, providing for an effective date. This item is sponsored by Mayor Oliver Gilbert.
Council, this item was passed on first reading. When was this passed on first reading?
In the last meeting.
No, it wasn't the last meeting.
Before that.
It wasn't the meeting before that either.
Months ago.
Yeah, this was an item it inadvertently left off our agenda. We passed it on first reading months ago, I think in May. So this is something we thought we had put in place that had not been put in place. We wanted it in place for the new fiscal year. This is the same item that requires people to participate as far as cameras and putting information into our real-time crime center. So public hearing is a public hearing on this item. So public hearing on this item is open. Yeah, public hearing on this item is closed. I move the item.
Second.
All right, questions, comments from the dais? Call the roll.
Councilman Iguodaro.
Yes.
Councilwoman Odom.
Yes.
Councilman Leon.
Yes.
Councilman Williams.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Harris.
Yes.
Mayor Gilbert.
Yes.
The item passes 6-0. Resolutions and public hearings. Item 10.1, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Miami Gardens, Florida, authorizing the city manager to pursue annexation of the unincorporated portion of Miami-Dade County located east of the city limits along Northwest 1st Avenue, Northwest 167th Street, Northwest Miami Court, Northeast 181st Street, and Northeast 5th Avenue, totaling approximately 134.41 acres, providing for instructions to the city manager to proceed with annexation, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for the adoption of representation, providing for an effective date. This item is sponsored by the city manager.
The public hearing, this is a public hearing on this item. Public hearing on this item is open. Okay, seeing no speakers, public hearing on this item is closed. Council, we talked about this a while back. This is us getting the industrial area that takes us east to 95 on 183rd Street. That's what this is. I'll move the item.
Second.
All right, questions, comments, discussion? Mr. Clay is here for answers if you all.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to thank the city manager because this packet was in the agenda. We were able to sit down and go through this thoroughly, so I just want to thank the manager for that.
I'd like to thank the councilman for being. Okay, y'all are just my. I'm gonna go ahead and move past that. Yeah, this has been moved and seconded. Any other comments or questions from the day? All right, all those in favor. We have to do a roll call. We don't have to do a roll call on this. This is a resolution, but we'll do it just in case. I'll call the roll on this.
Councilwoman Odom.
Yes.
Councilman Iguodaro.
Yes.
Councilman Leon.
Yes.
Councilman Williams.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Harris.
I vote yes.
Mayor Gilbert.
I vote yes.
This item passes 6-0. On to your consent agenda. Consent agenda item 11.1, a resolution of the City Council, City of Miami Gardens, Florida, authorizing the city manager to establish a program to provide pressure cleaning services to residents over the age of 55 who have received warnings from the City of Miami Gardens Code Enforcement, and a pressure cleaner loan program for all residents who have received warnings, providing for the documentation, providing for an effective date. This item is sponsored by Mayor Gilbert. Item 11.2, a resolution of the City Council, City of Miami Gardens, allocating funds from Councilman Iguodaro's Public Affairs account in the amount of $350 for the Noble South Florida Chapter Black Ties and Badges Gala event on Saturday, December 7, 2019, providing for an adoption of representation, providing for an effective date. This item is sponsored by Councilman Iguodaro. Item 11.3, a resolution of the City Council, City of Miami Gardens, Florida, authorizing one-year renewal of parks lighting electrical maintenance agreement with primary vendor Empirical Electric and secondary vendor Electrical Contracting Services, Inc., authorizing the city manager to issue purchase orders on an as-needed basis not to exceed the allocated budget, providing for an adoption of representation, providing for an effective date. This item is sponsored by the city manager. Item 11.4, a resolution of the City Council, City of Miami Gardens, Florida, authorizing the city manager and the city clerk to execute and attest respectively that certain agreement with the State of Florida Department of Environmental Protection attached hereto as Exhibit A for the acceptance of the grant agreement pursuant to LPA 0025 of the General Appropriations Act in the amount of $30,000 for the Miami Gardens Canal Erosion Protection Project, authorizing the city manager to execute and any and all documents required by the grant process, providing for the adoption of representation, providing for an effective date. This item is sponsored by the city manager. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Miami Gardens, Florida, authorizing the city manager, the city clerk to execute and attest respectively to certain agreement with the United States Department of Justice for the acceptance of the fiscal year 2019 Edward Bryan grant in the amount of $56,401 to fund the Miami Gardens Police Department focus on public safety fiscal year 2019-2020 project, authorizing the city manager to execute any and all documents required by the grant process, providing for the adoption of representation, providing for an effective date. This item is sponsored by the city manager.
Madam Clerk, hold for a second. That was 11.5, now 11.6.
Item 11.6, a resolution of the City Council, City of Miami Gardens, Florida, authorizing the city manager to issue a purchase order in the amount of $57,075.20 to AIPUS LLC for network security solutions and services, providing for a waiver of formal competitive bidding procedures, providing for an adoption of representation, providing for an effective date. This item is sponsored by the city manager. Item 11.7, a resolution of the City Council, City of Miami Gardens, Florida, authorizing one-year renewal of certain agreement for vending services with MH Management, Inc., providing for the adoption of representation, providing for an effective date. This item is sponsored by the city manager. Item 11.8, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Miami Gardens, Florida, authorizing the city manager to issue purchase order to LTG Sports Turf 1 LLC for the design and construction of the artificial turf football field and shaded bleachers at Lester Brown Park by relying upon University of Central Florida solicitation for turf fields 4-27 in the amount not to exceed $1,629,391, providing for the adoption of representation, providing for an effective date. This item is sponsored by the city manager. Item 11.9, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Miami Gardens, Florida, approving scope of services and fees to CSA Central, Inc. for design and bid freight services for Andover Park improvements as pre-qualified firm RFQ number 18-19-008, continue architectural and engineering services contract, a copy of which is attached here to as Exhibit A, authorizing the city manager to issue purchase orders in the amount not to exceed $83,726 for the design of improvements to Andover Park, providing for an adoption of representation, providing for an effective date. This item is sponsored by the city manager. Item 11.10, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Miami Gardens, Florida, supporting the Superfest Miami Live to be held at the city's 35-acre parcel located on 27th Avenue, authorizing the city manager to negotiate terms and execute a sponsorship use agreement for Superfest Miami Live, authorizing a sponsorship in the amount of $100,000 in-kind services in support of Superfest Miami Live, not to exceed $142,000, providing for an adoption of representation, providing for an effective date. This item is sponsored by the city manager. Item 11.11, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Miami Gardens, Florida, awarding bid R2R Demolition, Inc. for providing turnkey commercial demolition services, including but not limited to all labor, materials, equipment, permitting site safety, access, mold, lead testing and abandonment, FPL power, sewer, capping, HVAC removal, and redemption, any and all hazardous waste removals, demolition, regrading of the site, and disposal of all material to be certified waste disposal facility in compliance with all regulatory requirements to provide demolition services for the Senior Family Center site, authorizing the city manager to issue purchase orders on an as-needed basis in the amount not to exceed the allocated budget amount for this proposed, providing for the adoption of representation, providing for an effective date. This is sponsored by the city manager. Item 11.12.
Hold for a second. It's been a long agenda. Let me finish reading it for you. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Miami Gardens, Florida, awarding invitation to bid 18-19002 to Continental Construction USA, LLC, for citywide drainage improvements, authorizing the city manager and the city attorney to negotiate and execute an agreement for this purpose in an amount not to exceed the budgeted amount, providing for the adoption of representations, providing for an effective date. This is sponsored by the city manager. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Miami Gardens, Florida, awarding request for qualification number 1113, 18-19-005 to Dade Media Incorporated and Outfront Media LLC for the City of Miami Gardens digital static billboards, authorizing the city manager and the city attorney to negotiate and execute agreements for this purpose, providing for the adoption of representations, providing for an effective date. Is sponsored by the city manager. And I think that is the end of our consent agenda, right?
Mr. Mayor?
Oh, we have executives, yeah. Go ahead.
Item 1114, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Miami Gardens, Florida, allocating funds from Councilman Iguodara's public affairs account in the amount of $500 for the Mount Zion AARP Thanksgiving lunch on Tuesday, November 19, 2019, providing for the adoption representations, providing for an effective date. Item 1115, a resolution of the City of Miami Gardens, Florida, ratifying and accepting resolutions passed by Miami-Dade County, approving the execution of an interlocal agreement for the transfer of control from Miami-Dade County to the City of Miami Gardens of the Air Park Industrial Landscape Maintenance Improvement Special Taxing District, located entirely within the city, authorizing the city manager to do all things necessary to effectuate the intent of this resolution, providing for instructions to the city clerk, providing for the adoption representations, providing for an effective date. 1116, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Miami Gardens, Florida, ratifying and accepting the resolutions passed by Miami-Dade County, approving the execution of an interlocal agreement for the transfer of control from Miami-Dade County to the City of Miami Gardens of the Air Park Industrial Street Lighting Improvement Project, located entirely within the city, authorizing the city manager to do all things necessary to effectuate the intent of this resolution, providing for instructions to the city clerk, providing for the adoption representations, providing for an effective date. Item 1117, a resolution of the City of Miami Gardens, Florida, ratifying and accepting resolutions passed by Miami-Dade County, approving the execution of an interlocal agreement for the transfer of control from Miami-Dade County to the City of Miami Gardens of the Dolphin Center Multi-Purpose Special Taxing District, located entirely within the city, authorizing the city manager to do all things necessary to effectuate the intent of this resolution, providing for instructions to the city clerk, providing for the adoption representations, providing for an effective date. Item 1118, a resolution of the City of Miami Gardens, Florida, ratifying and accepting resolutions passed by Miami-Dade County, approving the execution of an interlocal agreement for the transfer of control from Miami-Dade County to the City of Miami Gardens of the MDPD North District Station Street Lighting Special Taxing District, located entirely within the city, authorizing the city manager to do all things necessary to effectuate the intent of this resolution, providing for instructions to the city clerk, providing for adoption representations, providing for an effective date. 1119, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Miami Gardens, Florida, ratifying and accepting resolutions passed by Miami-Dade County, approving the execution of an interlocal agreement for the transfer of control from Miami-Dade County to the City of Miami Gardens of the Park Center Business Park Street Lighting Special Taxing District, located entirely within the city, authorizing the city manager to do all things necessary to effectuate the intent of this resolution, providing for instructions to the city clerk, providing for the adoption representations, providing for an effective date. 1120, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Miami Gardens, Florida, ratifying and accepting resolutions passed by Miami-Dade County, approving the execution of an interlocal agreement for the transfer of control from Miami-Dade County to the City of Miami Gardens of the Sunshine State Industrial Park Street Lighting Improvement Project, located entirely within the city, authorizing the city manager to do all things necessary to effectuate the intent of this resolution, providing for instructions to the city clerk, providing for adoption representations, providing for an effective date. That's it, Mayor.
Mayor. I need to recognize, there needs to be a correction on 11.10. In terms of the in-kind services, the amount that was read was $142,000. The actual amount is $150,000.
150,000.
Yes.
I will show that as a Scrivener's error.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I need a motion on the consent agenda.
Motion. Second it.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. We're now on to 12.1. Wait, nothing was pulled, right? Okay, 12.1.
Item 12.1, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Miami Gardens, Florida, establishing a policy for naming and renaming of significant city structures, providing for the adoption of representation, providing for an effective date, and this item was sponsored by Councilman Reggie Leon.
Councilman.
Yeah, we had some discussion a couple meetings ago based on coming up with adopting a formal policy of naming and renaming city structures. So this is something that we got together and drafted.
Okay. Thank you. Move the item for discussion. Move the item. You need to move it.
I move the item.
Second. All right, discussion.
Okay. What exactly do we actually change from the old policy of naming or renaming a city structure?
We didn't have a policy for renaming city structures. We have a policy on parks and streets,
Parks?
right? Or streets, actually, streets.
We have for parks?
No, just streets. Just streets. We have a policy for streets.
Okay, but we renamed our parks, so I don't understand.
Yeah,
what
we didn't have a policy. That's what I'm saying. There was no policy.
We
There's
just
only-
named parks, but we didn't have a policy for naming them?
No, and, you know, I wasn't here when you all had discussion initially, but the policy really is the will of the council. If you think somebody is worthy enough, so we named the park, we renamed the park Brentwood Park to Lester Brown Park. And we renamed Lester Brown Park while Lester Brown, I'm grateful that we did it while he was alive. So the policy is.
And we also named A.J. King after she passed.
But after she passed away. But the most recent one was definitely Lester Brown. And so we renamed parks. We didn't have a set policy. The general policy has been, if the council feels that it's appropriate, you do it. So what you do when you, and the only reason we have a policy for streets is because of the overwhelming number of streets and the overwhelming number of requests that we had. So we have a whole bunch of pending requests, and we will have to deal with that at some point for street renaming. But that's the only reason we have a policy for streets. It's because it became overwhelming.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
And we have some council members up here that has done some outstanding things within the city since we became a city. We're sitting in this building that's named after our former mayor. Also, we got Councilman David Williams, who some of us would have never known about a miracle fruit until he introduced us to the garden that he's started. Councilwoman Odom has done an awesome job. If you ever go to her office upstairs, you'll see the history that she keeps in her office. And we have to recognize these individuals. If we don't recognize the people that work for us and serve us, then who will? Councilman Harris has started a wonderful mentoring program. He took his professional life and brought it over to his political life and started a wonderful mentoring program. And we need to make sure that we continue to recognize our colleagues. Councilman Iguodora introduced me to the I Am Festival. This is my first time ever going this year, and I had a wonderful time. But if we don't recognize our own people and when we form this city so that we can have our own, then who will?
Yeah. Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
In spirit, I like the item, but I have some serious misgivings based on the perception of conflict. If anybody watching what's going on nationally, even Washington D.C., with the potential violation of the emoluments clause by the president, who wanted to have a G8 summit in his own Doral, Trump Plaza. I'm not saying this is that. And he backed away from that because it didn't smell right. This don't smell right. I think we already have a policy in terms of street naming that we can adapt in terms of structures as well. The policy can be consistent for structures. And I think it's semantics. Even the idea of an overpass is not a roadway or something that is within the confines of the old ordinance. I don't buy it. But my point is, I would, because I'm trying to speak on the other 12.2, I think that's where you're going with this, right?
I would actually say we're actually on 12.1.
I'm on 12.1.
Okay.
You know, I'm on 12.1. I'm going to register my reservation on 12.1 if we're going to pass this, I would only support it if it states, if there is a restriction on it benefiting somebody who's voting on it, on the current council. Now, this is not something I'm speaking against the persons that have been recommended, or the person, our mayor particularly. If anybody is deserving of such an honor, I think he is. I know it is. But I would not support in good faith that we seemingly rewarding ourselves. This is not self-serving service. We do this because we've been called to a higher calling. And if the posterity, those who come after us, want to recognize us, the old people used to say, self-praise is no recommendation. Let other people do it. I understand the spirit of the item, but I'm not comfortable with it, Brother Leon.
Thank you. I'm going to be heard on this item. And for everyone doing this, I want you all to just listen to this for a second. First, I would be remiss if I say the reference to the emolument clause clearly indicates that we don't know what the emoluments clause is. I don't care whether the bridge is named after me. I think it's a good policy. So on 12.1, that's the first thing. The second thing, the emoluments clause is a clause that has some pecuniary gain, meaning I would have to own it and be voting on it. It's a bridge that's not owned and be making money off of it. It's not a toll bridge. And to put that in the public sphere, to cast a shadow of impropriety, is inappropriate. That is wholly inappropriate. That is not what the emoluments clause does. We have a conflict of interest law that governs the county and the state, and they both speak to pecuniary gain, whether you're actually going to get something or your family member is going to get something. This does nothing like that. Sometimes we get in the habit of swinging at shadows, and we hold ourselves to such higher standards. I was the person who named this building after Aaron Campbell and Shirley Gibson, and I think they were both sitting on the dais and voted when I did it. I heard none of these complaints then. So when people say it's not directed individually at me, I don't know. I think it probably is, but that doesn't even really bother me either. Because if this didn't create such a kerfuffle while I was gone, I wouldn't be on the dais. If we didn't make up a new rule, since when does this council need an express policy to say what we think is right? We literally do it all the time. When we named our CPR program after someone, we did it. When we did Lester Brown Park, we did it. When we did Audrey King Park, we did it. When we did the police department after Aaron Campbell, we did it. When we did the city hall after Shirley Gibson, we did it. Note, 3 of those people were alive when it was done, and they were on the dais. 2 of them were on the dais. So if you don't want to name the bridge, that's fine. I'll tell you how the bridges came about. Oscar and I wanted to take pedestrians out of the road because when people are crossing the road after games, after they've been drinking, they do stupid stuff. And it backs up traffic. And it makes it a lot more difficult to clear the roads after games. Those bridges literally were crafted in our imagination as something that could actually help this community. And then we went to the state and worked and worked and worked and got it funded completely. So it is altogether interesting that we have higher standards now, that we even need a policy now, because all a policy does is chain the will of the council. And ultimately, the will of the council is something that ought to be abiding. So yeah, I get that everyone says it's not political. It is. That's fine. I don't take issue with that. I don't even take issue with my name being on something, because I have complete faith in my service that the kids I gave laptops to will remember me. When they're playing in that STEM building, they're going to remember all of us, right? When they're going to the butterfly garden, no, they'll remember you when they go to the museum. You're going to get that in a second. But I think Councilman Leon's point is well taken. We can adopt a policy. I didn't think, when I heard about this, I reviewed the tape, I didn't think you all needed a policy. All you needed was the will of the body to do it. And I appreciate you, Councilman Leon, for doing this. I mean, I appreciate you doing it while I wasn't here. I think it's altogether strange, the objections that were raised, especially since no one in this building even thought of a bridge before Senator Brainerd and I conceived it. And to add, the stadium's trying to name the bridge.
The stadium is
They're trying to name the bridge, because if you don't name something, people will put their name on it. It is altogether interesting. But we can vote this item up or down. It's taking up way too much time.
Can I want to call the question.
Yeah. All right. All those in favor of this policy signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Nay.
No.
All right. Show it adopted. Call 12-2.
Item 12.2, a resolution of the City Council City, Item 12.2, a resolution of the City of Miami Gardens, Florida, authorizing the approval of the request to name the new pedestrian bridge on Northwest 199th Street as the Mayor Oliver Gilbert III Bridge, and the pedestrian bridge located east of the stadium at Northwest 199th Street, Florida Turnpike Accessway as Senator Oscar Braden Bridge, providing for the adoption of the representation, providing for an effective date. This item is sponsored by by Councilman Reggie Leon.
The way we got to this point, I attempted to do this while the mayor was out, so that we can recognize him and the senator, who both sat on this council as council members, for their service. And actually, I was trying to do it so that he wouldn't know about it and it would be a surprise to him, but it's got us to this point right now, where we are. So, being that he's already told the story on who went and got the funding and fought. I'm sorry?
No, never mind.
So being that he's already told the story on how this impacted our community, not only it impacted people that's going to the stadium, but this impacts the people that take 27th Avenue and 199th, who's able to move freely now because we don't have to close traffic, so that they can still go to their homes, get into Lake Lucerne, leave out by Norwood, and the traffic isn't affected as much. And just like I said, moving forward, I will make sure that I'm bringing more of these name resolutions for people on this council that have done tremendous work. We always have something negative to say, but we do very little in the positive aspect of it. And these people give their time and their talent to this city. So we want to make sure that they're recognized. That's all I have.
All right, move the item.
I move the item.
Second.
All right, move the second. Question comes from Dais. Mr. Gadara.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So that my comments may not be misconstrued, the emolument clause I didn't say it was particularly related to this particular item. I was speaking to the issue of perception of impropriety. Emolument does not apply to the city of Miami Gardens, city government. I'm talking in the context of the presidency. Now, my argument, not an argument, my concern still stands. We have young people here. I think it is instructive to let our young people know that you don't go into public service expecting to gain something. You know, we do selfless service. If everybody who gets into public service is going to say, because I build a bridge, I'm not saying this bridge. There's a poem that I learned as a student called The Bridge Builder. The bridge builder does not wait to say, I'm going to be the only one to walk that bridge because I build it. It builds it, or she builds it, for people who are going to come after them. The point is here. On this item, I'm not going to be comfortable voting for something that seems to be self-serving. That's the argument. That's my point. Thank you.
A good friend in the path that I have come, he said, there followeth after me today a youth whose feet must pass this way. This bridge that has been is not to me, to that fair head used me a pitfall be. He too must cross in the twilight dim, good friend. I'm building this bridge for him. I know that poem also. It doesn't speak to naming. It doesn't speak to credit. It just speaks to a path forward for kids. I appreciate your sentiment, Mr. Iguodaro. But when you bring up something like the emoluments clause and conflict of interest, when none exist, you taint the actions of this council. You let people think that, oh, they're doing something that's shady when they aren't. We aren't. We have a whole city attorney's office that touches on the shoulder, us on the shoulder anytime we do something that approaches the line. And so I appreciate your concerns. It would have just been better stated had you not referenced the violation of a law attaching to it. Because now that will be what leaves here. That'll be what leaves here. And not even relating to this, but relating to, we do an extraordinary job of providing bad press for ourselves as a city. It would be a shame if that habit became contagious on this council. If we started drawing negativity on the things that we do. I think that would be tragic for a city, Mr. Iguodaro. So while I appreciate your discomfort, and I've always stood in my truth and each council member's ability to vote their conscience, however they want to do it. When you reference self-dealing or conflict of interest or emoluments or anything like that, by implication, that's an indictment of our actions. And it would be tragic if we started to evaluate everything that each of us does and say, hey, I think this was probably illegal, this purchase, this, when we know it's not. I would not do that, not just as the elected leader of the city, but I wouldn't do that because it is unfair to the people who are voting, and more importantly, it's unfair to the residents that we represent.
Mr. Mayor, I did not raise conflict of interest. If you check the record, at the last meeting when this was brought up, I didn't speak. I left the dais. And afterwards, I was getting pushback from our residents about the perception of conflict. And I'm raising here not a conflict. I'm saying, and you're trying to reframe what I said. And that's not correct. I'm saying the perception, not the conflict.
Oh. So you're saying there is no conflict of interest?
No, I'm saying the perception.
Thank you.
That's the point.
Well, I'm not reframing, I'm repeating. And if it sounds specious, it's in repetition, it's because that's how it came across. Because I'm looking at people's faces when you said it. That's how it came across. So I would just ask every member of the council, not just Mr. Iguodaro, be careful how we address the actions of others. Because we're playing with each other's reputations up here. And if we're going to start doing that, dare I say, those are deep waters, Mr. Iguodaro. Those are deep waters for us all. And so I think that if you're worried about the perception, then you should just, hey, I'm worried about the perception, and say it and vote no. But that's not what you just said. And so I wasn't here when this initially was spoken about, because I'm pretty sure the conversation would have gone differently.
Mr. Mayor, I don't want to go tick for tat. This is not that. I am the fact that a council person's reputation can be sold on this council, I've been a victim of. I'm not going to go to that, right? But I'm going to tell you this. I have the right to say whatever I want to say on this council, and I have the right to vote the way I want to vote. I have told you my reservation, and it's based on a perception of a conflict. I understand English, and I said perception, and the record bears me correct.
You have anything else on your perceptions?
I vote no.
Thank you. Questions, comments? All those in favor? Yeah, you got something? Williams? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Nay.
Those opposed?
No.
Nay.
Show it adopted. Thank you.
Item 12.3, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Miami Gardens, Florida, supporting Miami-Dade County Board of County Commissioners resolution renaming the Miami Gardens Neighborhood Services Center to the Reverend Dr. Edward T. Graham Neighborhood Center, providing for instructions to the city clerk, providing for adoption of representation, providing for an effective date. This item is sponsored by Councilman David Williams Jr.
Williams.
This is an item that just supports Commissioner Barbara Jordan's item that she's taken to the county commission to change the name on a building that we don't own, that they own, and just show support. Reverend Graham was instrumental in doing a lot of things in this community, bringing Florida Memorial down here, moving it from St. Augustine, being on boards, building one of the first housing units here, and he served on the Miami-Dade County Commission for many years. So he shaped a lot of what is now Miami Gardens. And with that, I move the item.
I second.
Okay, well, it's moving second. Your questions?
The question is, what's the address of this building?
Is it 160? It's 16405.
Tell you in a second. The address.
I couldn't see it.
Q.
I can tell you where it's located.
Yeah, I don't know the exact address.
Right.
I can tell you. You want to know the address?
16405.
Northwest 25th Avenue.
Northwest 25th Avenue.
25th Avenue?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's the old medical center?
Medical Center.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, all those the clinics and all that stuff back there.
Next to the hospital.
Wait, the neighborhood.
It's the neighborhood. It's the neighborhood center.
Neighborhood Center.
Right.
Okay, very
You
good.
just cross up the Palmetto, and
Yeah,
as soon as
right.
the next year you make a left.
It used to be called Opelika Neighborhood Center.
That is what it used to be called.
Right, exactly. Okay, good. I didn't see that in the information.
I didn't know the address. I just know where it is.
No, it's in there. Then.
Okay.
And,
All right.
and by the way, Reverend Graham is dead.
I'm gonna support the item. I wasn't familiar with all the good things that Reverend Graham did, but I am familiar with Commissioner Barbara Jordan, and I know that she wouldn't bring an item to name something after someone on the county level, and she wouldn't recommend that to this city if they weren't worthy.
Yeah, I read Reverend Graham.
Questions? You good? Anybody? Anybody? No? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Show it adopted.
We're now on to the quasi-judicial section of the agenda. Quasi-judicial.
Quasi-judicial, she's coming up. Okay, everyone who filled out one of these who I didn't call, I'm going to call you now when we go to this item.
Good evening and welcome to the quasi-judicial portion of the November 13, 2019 City Council meeting. For those persons that will or may be speaking on an item on the agenda or commenting on an item, please stand up and be sworn in by the city clerk. For applicants, your item will be called to order by agenda number and by title of your request. When your item is called, please approach the microphone, and when addressed, please speak directly and clearly, stating your name and address for the record, and explain the reason for your request. Note that all exhibits presented to the mayor and council will become part of the public record.
Thank you.
Please raise your right hand.
Okay, everybody who filled out these at least needs to stand up and raise your right hand. Everybody who did, yeah, if you plan on speaking on this item, you have to be sworn in. All right. I already have you, Mr. Green, so you're good. All right, go ahead.
Please affirm the testimony you're about to give is truthful to the best of your knowledge.
All right.
Item number 13.11. An ordinance of the City Council, City of Miami Gardens, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances as outlined in Exhibit A attached here to, amending Article 1, General Provisions, Article 4, Generalized Schedule of Permitted Uses, Uses Permitted with Extra Requirements, Special Exception, Uses and Prohibited Uses, Article 5, Accessory Uses and Structures, Article 6, Development Standard, Generalized Table of Development Standards, Article 7, Off-Street Parking, Loading, and Vehicle Circulation Requirements, Article 15, Planned Corridor Development, PCD, and Entertainment Overlay Districts, EO, repealing and replacing Article 16, Minimum Landscape and Buffering Requirements, fencing, walls, hedges, creating Division 8 of Article 15, Business Transitional Overlay District of City of Miami Gardens Land Development Regulations, creating a location of businesses transitional overlay districts as outlined in Exhibit B attached here to, providing for adoption of representation, repealing all ordinances in conflict, providing a severability clause, providing for inclusion in code, providing an effective date. This item is sponsored by the city manager.
All right, Mr. Manager. This is the thingy.
Yeah. These are the proposed changes that you've talked about, Mayor and council members, in your workshop earlier today. I know that there has been some discussion in regards to what the next steps would be. But Mayor, at this point in time, we'll just listen to what the public comments, and then we'll go from there.
Public hearing is open. Cynthia Archibald. Archibald?
Hello, city elected officials. Thank you very much for the opportunity to say something here. Now, whereas much of what I had to say already, one of my members and already addressed them, but I just want to ask, just for clarity, when the building at Grace United Community Church Banquet Hall and Event Center was built, while it was in construction, we got permission for what it could be used and in what capacity it could be served. And now we have a building and we're in this conflict with how it should be used and why we cannot use it to the full extent for which we had gotten permission in the first place.
Thank you. Melissa Kitson.
Good evening, honorable ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the opportunity to come. My name is Melissa Kitson. I live at 7530 Kismet Street in Miramar, but I worship on 183rd Street. But the question I have to ask, since I was in that neighborhood 1984 up until now, well, still there, why is it that all of a sudden that corridor becomes residential when there were no new homes built for all the time that I know that place is always a commercial / residential? Why is the change? Just a question I did like.
Thank you.
Curious.
Dennis Archibald.
I am Bishop Dennis Archibald from the Grace United Community Church, 901 Northwest 183rd Street. My worship, the Mayor, the Honorable Benson City Manager, the Miss Dickens Esquire, City Attorney. I won't take long. I am just here to thank you for understanding that we have built a multi-purpose hall, and we would like to accommodate the people in the community. We want to thank you for your understanding and your consideration, because at 8th Place it's commercial, going over to Presidente, the dry cleaning place and all those stuff, it's commercial, and then 12th Avenue going up to 17, it's commercial. So we don't understand why between 8th Place and 12th Avenue it should be residential. The people in the community are delighted to have us there, and we serve everyone. I would like to invite every one of you over to a luncheon in our hall. And all you need to do is to tell us what you want to eat. And we will provide it. We will give you luncheon, and you come and take a look at the place and see what we are doing. But we are doing a great job over there, and we would like to invite all of you here, council people and city people, to come over and see what we have in our community. I want to thank you so much for the great work you are doing. And we are here to serve the community because we are a part of this great city. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Zatilda Gibson. Careful.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Zatilda Gibson, and my address is 19241 Northwest 39th Court, Miami Gardens, Florida 33055. Well, it used to be Opelika, then Carroll City, now it's Miami Gardens. I'm living there since 1972. And I don't want to be redundant, but just piggybacking on my brethren from Grace United Church.
Thank you.
I agree with them.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, public comment is now closed. Ms. Smith, did the zoning used to be commercial where the church?
Not that I'm aware, as far as I know, it's always been residential unless it was a different use under the county, but
Yeah.
it's always been residential
It's
from the
always been
maps that I
residential.
have.
Yeah, it's always been residential. That's what I thought. I have a couple of thoughts on this. Now I understand in the workshop, you can sit down. I understand the word. I'll move the item. I understand the urgency that Mr. Gadaru showed, but I don't, let me just say this, and this isn't regarding the church, because I've been to I think called the 801. I mean, I've been there. 901, yeah, I've been there. It's a fabulous place. I think you all should be able to use it like that. But changing your LDRs to accommodate a specific use is something we don't do, because that use will last in perpetuity until we change it again. So it's not just that it's doing it for you, because you're a church and we know who you are. You do good things. You're there for the community. We'd be doing it for the land, and the land, however it transitions. And if the rush is to do this for the church, we could just, you all have been operating anyway. I don't know that we necessarily have to rush, but I think it's a great use, and I think we ought to definitely allow for it along that corridor, because that corridor should be used for things like that. To answer your question, the corridor was residential. Most of our major commercial corridors were residential. That's why you have houses along major commercial corridors. We've been trying to change them out piece by piece, because we understand that if you don't have businesses along commercial corridors, you will not have a tax base that is sustainable. You have to use major commercial corridors for commerce, and this fits right in. So I think it'll be a very good thing. It's just how we get there in this document is going to be the issue. And so I think we talked about what we want to do. Are there any changes to that?
Well, all right, Mr. Mayor. I've been to the hall at the church before, and it's a wonderful hall. The only problem now, since we're talking about the church, that I have is that the residents on 184th Street, right behind the hall, get all of the cars parked in their yards whenever there's an event at the church. I was there several occasions, so if we can make sure that there's a solid parking plan so that those residents who live in that district and live right on 184 don't complain or have the vehicles in their yard when there's an event, we can
I
have a
think
solid
that's
plan on that.
something that probably needs to be definitely looked at and evaluated. And I'm sorry, I wrote down your question, ma'am, and I wanted to address your question also. When you all were building this, I would be interested if we told you that this could be used for. Yeah, I don't know that we actually did that. I would love to see that. If we told you that it could be used for this use before, we would need to confirm that, because I don't think that this probably would have ever been allowed even when you were building it. Having said that, it's built now, and I think it serves a service, a good service. So Councilman Leon's position is well taken. We need to provide for parking and be good neighbors. So, but you all can work with staff to do that. Yeah, you had a question, Councilwoman. That's your. You want me to direct to staff? Or?
Well, no, my concern was, did we provide an occupancy under these conditions? And that's, not that I want an answer at this time, I just thought, was an occupancy provided?
A certificate of occupancy for, I don't know. Or, certificate of occupancy or certificate of use?
CO. Was it a CO or CU?
Negation.
I believe it was for, and I would have to confirm with the building official, but I believe it was for a fellowship hall, not a banquet facility. It was just to be an accessory use to the church, not something where you can have outside events.
Okay. Well, we'll take. I can see how that would happen now. I can see how that would happen. Okay. All right. Well, we know what we want to do. Any other thing? All right.
I just want to make sure everyone's clear. This is allowed for special exception use for that use, so they still have to come back for a special exception.
Oh, they.
Mr. Mayor, there's no.
That's something we can look at second reading when we do the text amendment.
Well, yeah, but I'm not. I mean, if we can just process that, we can make some special exceptions can be done administratively, right?
No, all the special exceptions that we have would have to come before the council.
Well, I don't necessarily want them to have to pay for the re-advertisement of this, but I want them to be able to use that facility for like that.
Yeah, we can do it as an approved use.
But that's what I was going to say. I don't know that we want to necessarily. But let's sit down and talk about how we accommodate what they're doing without actually adding an entire use to the corridor. So because that's spot zoning, we can't just add it for them. We'd be adding it to the whole overlay.
Mayor, what we could do is add it as an approved use with criteria, and criteria is the way we limit how many we can have.
Yeah. So let's sit down and see how we do that.
Will the parking fall under the criteria?
Parking would probably have to fall under the criteria. So yeah, but I don't want it to be just completely allowed, because then you've allowed it for the entire district, and that could get a little hairy. So we'll work on that. It's a little more complicated to change, but we'll work on that. Yeah, that's complicated. That's complicated. But yeah. But I got an idea. on it. So all right. Thank you. You got something? Oh.
Well, I mean, I'd be curious to how we do that and not open it up to all churches that want to do these things. I mean,
We don't say churches, we say assembly uses,
well,
because we don't.
Assemblies,
Yeah.
okay.
We're going to figure it
Because-
out.
right,
The attorney
because-
and I and Ms. Smith, we're going to figure it out. Let's come back to something with y'all. We'll figure it out.
Mr. Mayor, and the real hook for them, positive, is that it's on 183rd Street.
Yes.
You know, not all churches in Miami-Dade. We're talking about the corridor.
Please.
The assembly.
Yes, please stop.
Yes. Yes, the assembly use of the facility. Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. It's assembly uses. It's assembly uses. Okay, anything else? No? Okay, call the roll.
Councilman Iguodaro?
Yes.
Councilwoman Odom?
Yes.
Councilman Leon?
Yes.
Councilman Williams?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Harris?
Yes.
Mayor Gilbert?
Yes.
The item passes 6-0.
Okay. Jesus.
What date is the dinner?
Don't take the dinner, because then that might be like a bribe. See? Don't do that. Don't do that. Yeah. That dinner will be a monument for a turkey sandwich. Now you got an emolument clause violation. And what's the next? We're on reports?
We're on to reports.
All right. Mr. Manager.
I don't have a report, ma'am.
Madam Attorney.
No report.
Madam Assistant Clerk.
Please excuse the absence of the city clerk. He had a family
He
emergency.
told me. I got it. Yes. Mr. Iguodaro.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Two things. I just want to recognize, I've been trying to do this for the past couple of meetings, but he's not here. We have a new Assistant Public Works Director, Bernard Tete. Welcome, 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 welcome. Secondly, I want to ask the question, because this Formula One deal has given me some sleepless night. I asked the question at the last council meeting of the city attorney. I didn't want to just go through it song and dance and end up going to this county hall and they voted down. And it seems to be what has happened now. Even though I know Commissioner Barbara Jordan and the county commission will be trying to work out a way to override that veto. But I'm not going to wait for them. So I'm trying to look at a way to protect us as a city. I know by right they could be able to have it inside the stadium if they want to. On our streets, it becomes an issue, even though that's their street, that's the county road, but there's an impending issue of noise and environmental pollution. I know through our code we have standards in terms of how much noise we've permitted in our community. I hear, from what I understand, this is going to be like the noise of a jet engine, coming through our streets. These are residential neighborhood. If there is a way we can preempt, I don't know if preempt is a good thing to say now, but I think a way to make sure we have our code in a way that prohibits that kind of disaster, because this is a disaster coming to our community. So it's a question and something I'm looking into, Mr. Mayor.
You can work the attorney's office, but just one thing, we don't concede that they can actually have it in the stadium. I know that that's their position, that is not ours. That is not ours. We issue special events permits but I don't know that racing is necessarily contemplated as one of those types of events. So we haven't necessarily conceded that. So, but that's something you can work it through with the attorney and bring it out.
Thank you.
I just want to say, on behalf of myself and my family, I want to thank the city and everyone else for your outpouring of love and support for our family. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Williams.
A couple of things. First thing is that I want to invite all the council, all the staff, and whomever is available on December 10th and 9th to the 9th Annual Science Fair. I'm going to say it again. All
Yes.
the council is invited to come. And if you want to speak, let me know. We'll accommodate that also. The second thing, a while back I had asked and I had spoken about our police department and the number of officers. And I was putting together a report and talking to some legal experts that deal with police departments around the country. Did we get anywhere? I thought staff was going to be looking at that also in terms of what is the right number for the city.
We have that information. I'll make sure you have that tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to take this opportunity to commend Parks and the Police Department for a wonderful, wonderful Halloween event. We had over 12,500 residents that showed up for that event that night. And it went on without a hitch, without any problems, without any complications. So, again, I commend you guys for a great, great job.
Councilwoman
There's only one thing that I'd like to call your attention to is World AIDS Day. The annual World AIDS Day will be Thursday, December 5th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Betty T. Ferguson. So, do we have a meeting before Thanksgiving?
No, I don't think so.
And because we're not having a meeting before Thanksgiving, I'd like to wish each of you a happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Bishop Archibald, you as well.
All right, thank you. A couple of things. First of all, is Melvin still here? Councilman Bratton, did he step out? All right. I want to thank Melvin and Ms. Johnson and everyone who worked to put together Veterans Day luncheon. It was very nice, you all. Very nice. It gave us a chance to patronize Lorna's a relocated restaurant here in Miami Gardens. But it was extraordinary. The veterans loved it. And so I hope that's the beginning of something that we do now on a continuing basis. Councilwoman Odom was there. She got a chance to acknowledge and remind people about the parking spaces that are dedicated to veterans now that we're incorporating in our code. And I can't say enough about the men and women who volunteer their lives in service of this country. We recognize them on that Monday, but they really should stand acknowledged and honored every day. And so I appreciate all of you. Thank you all for putting that together. It was really, really wonderful. And little Oliver loved the chicken. The Food and Wine Festival. Well, we call him Little Oliver because he called me Big Oliver, so he's actually about my size, but that's a whole nother thing. The Food and Wine Festival, we had to reschedule because of the hurricane that was supposed to come that actually didn't come. But it was very well received. And so I wanted to thank, I know she isn't here, Tamara Watley, Stark Smith, the Hungry Black Man, who facilitated it, Renita Nelson, Petula Burke, everyone who helped put that together. I appreciate it. The people who came loved it. The restaurants, we have to do more to highlight the restaurants and the things that people can do in Miami Gardens, how you spend money and time in Miami Gardens. I think it was really good. I appreciate you all putting that together. Today we passed a resolution that created a program that's going to pressure clean sidewalks for free for senior citizens who we've issued warnings to. You are definitely don't get your money back. You definitely don't. Because that would be a violation of the emoluments clause. Yeah, that'd be a violation of the emoluments clause. Yeah. We're going to be asked that, yeah.
There are several people who have already done it.
You don't know, it's prospective only. We're not giving refunds. This is the thing, you all. It creates a program that we do it for seniors, but then we also create a program where we're going to get the pressure cleaners and we're going to maintain them and have it like you can maybe check them out like a library card, almost like a pressure cleaner, so you can clean your own if you're not 55 or older. This is the thing. This program is not going to last forever. We understand that people have difficulties accommodating themselves to the new standards. This is not a new standard. This is not something that Miami Gardens made up. This is something that has existed that was never enforced before. And so, yeah, we're going to have to dedicate ourselves fully to the maintenance of our properties and our sidewalks. And so I understand that it might be a hardship, especially for our seniors. So we're going to take care of that in the meantime. We create a program to take care of the seniors. So as we go out and we do other things, we'll pressure clean those sidewalks for the seniors. That's fine. Everyone else can come and check it out, and they can pressure clean theirs themselves. But the point is, we have to become the first and most significant standard bearers of the quality of life and property that we want. So we talk about all the time, I always hear it, well, they don't do that in other cities, they do this in other cities. Why we can't have that? Because sometimes we don't actually want to invest in our property that way. We're investing in the public infrastructure, and we're going to ask people to invest in the private infrastructure. For far too long, the county did not care what happened in this area. They didn't care that you made a 2-bedroom a 6-bedroom illegally. They didn't care whether you paved over the entire front yard. They didn't care whether your house wasn't stuccoed. What we're saying now is it matters. And this is the natural evolution of a city into a community. So I know it's going to be painful. We will do all we can to mitigate the pain for the residents, but it's something that we have to grow into. And so hopefully the resolution we pass tonight as a council unanimously will help us grow into that, but it has to happen. And so I know y'all mad because y'all keep stopping me in Walmart. But stopping me in Walmart and complaining about it won't change the fact that when you get ready to sell your house, or you get ready to take out a business to send your kids to college, or you get ready to you take out a second mortgage so you can actually start a business, these little things actually increase the value of your property. That's how they've done it in other areas. And it's more important to us because black people and brown people carry the vast majority of their familial wealth in property. This is our homes. And so this is important.
That's why we organize.
Yeah. I know it's painful. It's important. So hopefully this program will help. The manager will get it up and started. I think that is it. We are going to be active again on Formula One. I don't know what the end result's going to be. I do know this, that the conversation that we've started with the mayor, the county, through our county commissioner, and the Dolphins is this. I am not against activities at Dolphin Stadium. You all know that I've been a proponent of development. I think we have to continue to develop our major corridors. I think we can use Dolphin Stadium and events there as an anchor. But we have to get away from very basic conversations. So I appreciate the Dolphins and the friendship they've shown to the city. But we need to all be clear about some stuff. Being a good neighbor doesn't mean, we give away turkeys at Thanksgiving or book bags in the summer or toys in Christmas. It means you contribute to the economic development of the city outside the stadium walls. For far too long, we've heard the argument that when people come to the stadium, it benefits our economy. It does not actually benefit our economy. It benefits the county economy. And I'm fine with that to a certain extent because we have people who work in hotels and at the port where they do the cruises, and a lot of the dollars in the Miami-Dade economy are tied to tourism. And a lot of those folks who work in that industry, they live in Miami Gardens, so I can appreciate that. But at some point, this community has to accommodate themselves, not just as the employee, but the employer. And so that has to be our focus. Economic development that actually benefits this community. Because if we're going to bear the burden of events as they come in, then this community should have some of the benefits. I don't think that's unreasonable. But in fairness to the mayor and the Dolphins, it's not a conversation that this community has insisted upon. For 30 years, we've been accepting penance. We have to do better. And this is the beginning. Thank you. Show us adjourned.